Hi there, this is Eshu. I'm the abbot here at Zenwest Buddhist Society. This Living Zen-podcast is just one of the many resources we've created at Zenwest to make Zen practice and training more available and accessible to people all over the world. Instructional videos, printable resources, and much, much more are also available on our website at www.zenwest.ca. If you're a regular listener, I'd love to hear from you. So please drop me an email at office@zenwest.ca and let me know who you are, how you got started, and what brought you to Zen. Everything we make available in person and online at Zenwest is only possible because of the support of our members and associates, people like you. If the efforts of our community are making a difference in your life, I'd like to invite you to show your support and take part in making it happen by becoming an associate or member of the Zenwest Sangha. You can do this by clicking the Join Us tab on our website at www.zenwest.ca. Thank you for your support, and thanks for listening. I think I just want to, it feels like it's been a really long time since we've had a half-day Zendo Sunday sit. And in some ways, it's like I don't even feel like the same person who was last here for a half-day Zendo Sunday sit. Maybe it's a good thing. That's a good thing, I think. The last year or so, year and a half, has been a big shift, a process of shifting that's been going on all year, and I think continues to go on. I think it's been influenced by my sister's death, but that's not the whole picture. I think there are a lot of things happening for me in practice, and really I don't, when I talk about myself during these Dharma talks, during an opportunity for a Dharma talk, I hope that it doesn't come across as like, oh, here goes Eshu talking about himself again. But I hope that it can give you hope in terms of a life of practice. Because this practice doesn't end. And if we're still in our heart of hearts holding out for a glimmer of a finish line or a resting place or a doneness, I tend to use my own life as a example of just that. Well, at least for me, it certainly hasn't happened yet. And if anything, all that practice has given me is an ability to roll with, maybe not even so graciously rolling with, but accepting, exploring, and enduring deeper and deeper cycles of change. So we haven't had a half-day Zendo, at very least since before I left for this most recent session. And I think last time I spoke, I talked about the work practice that I was engaged in, this practice of moving a big rock. And as a teacher, as a practitioner, just as a person, as a Zen person, the work practice of moving a rock has been, I've been reflecting on that and just thinking that there are some really familiar aspects of that as I am sort of walking through this next phase of, well, whatever it is. This is, what's going on in my practice right now. While I was at Sesshin in Seattle, right after arriving, Genjo basically turned to me and said, "Okay, Eshu, Genko Osho is going to give the talk on day 2, and you can give the talk on day 5." So, it's a big deal. And I think I mentioned last time that there are all kinds of, as I approached day 5, as I approached the day that I was giving the Dharma talk at Choboji, all kinds of old memories came up. In the tradition that I was trained in at Rinzai-ji, an opportunity to give a talk was just a way of sticking your head above the rest of the crowd, which just made it a lot easier to be cut off. And that was often the way that a Sasaki Roshi would actually discipline monks, was to invite them to step forward and give a talk or do something individually or demonstrate the depth of their understanding. And in a practice like Zen, to sort of be invited to step forward on your own is a frightening thing, particularly in front of people who are, it's just everyone's looking at you, and you're looking out, and you're being measured against the person who's been giving talks for 80 years or something like that. So it was just an opportunity to die. And then afterwards, after you were done giving the talk, the next talk that the Roshi gave would be entirely critical of whatever you said, regardless of how wonderful it might have been. There was no winning. So Genjo's not like that, and I know that. And the community there isn't like the Rinzai-ji community was back then, and I knew that. But do you think that made any difference? So giving the dedication chant, as I did this morning, I was actually laughing there while I was giving the dedication chant, because my voice was about, 2 octaves higher than usual, and the natural vibrato that I was like, I thought, wow, people are either going to think I'm into opera or they're going to know I'm really nervous. And so I went through that whole thing, and I named the nervousness even in the talk. But one of the things that's really struck me since then was how profoundly unfamiliar I am with affirmation, acknowledgement. Since the time I was very young, and possibly the reason that I got into Zen, and I've talked about this many, many times, was sort of this seeking for affirmation. I probably started with just my father. After my mother died, my father was a working person, and so he wasn't around a whole lot. And when he was, it was busy times. It was things needed to get done, and so I think I spent a lot of my young days really looking for the approval of my father. And in the activities that I wanted to engage in, my father really was trying to be practical and didn't really see the practical value of the things that I was spending my time and energy and resources on, like acting and theater, writing. I can only imagine the lament when I said, well, we'll give up those things and take up Zen. Anyways, so there was that battle inside of me, this unrequited sort of desire for approval. And as I grew older, I just realized I kept looking for bigger and bigger daddies, in a lot of ways, going to Mount Baldy and Rinzai-ji and Joshu Sasaki Roshi, although he was a small man physically, he was kind of a giant in Zen. And certainly when I went there in 97, he was 90 years old and just sort of almost bordering on a mythological figure for me. And in each of those circumstances, the real challenge, or the real opponent, I guess, or the real obstacle in my own development, my own practice, was not the physical father, or not the Roshi. And as it kept going on, whether that's Rinzai-ji as an organization, or whether that's the American Zen Teachers Association, it's always this, my own looking for external affirmation. And in each of those cases, the search for that affirmation, or the search for that approval, or that search for the external something or somebody to tell me I was okay, or right, or good, or strong, or wise, or whatever, led me to suffering in every case. Whether that's from just frustration, or whether that's from being led like an ox to the slaughter by that desire, and experiencing the blows that come from being led by a foolish desire. Being put into a double bind where I had to choose between continuing to work towards approval, which seemed to be so elusive, or to step up and affirm the value, my fundamental value on my own. These were big challenges. And one that nearly broke me was just really coming to the conclusion that the approval of my own heart, the approval of my own guts and my own wisdom, was actually more important to me than the approval of the external. And I think that was a big decision, choice I was supported in, but really has shaped me as a person. But what I realized after giving this talk is that all of my life up to this point, I have been pushing a rock, this burden, this obstacle. It's funny because the sort of Zen teaching, as probably all of you know, that really got me into Zen was one about carrying a woman, carrying an off-limits woman, I guess we could say, breaking the rules to bear this burden, and realizing that the burden was one that I chose myself. And so making that choice and being put in this position, in this relationship with Genjo, since I have been in relationship with Genjo, Genjo has done nothing but rob me. Because my whole life, so much of my energy and motivation has been pushing this rock of obstruction, of refusal, of denial, of criticism, of sort of emotional emasculation, pushing against giants in a lot of places, pushing this rock. And so much of my practice has been about strength and being able to continue to push this rock against seemingly impossible opposition. The number of times Nikki said, how do you continue? Or how do you keep doing that? Or why do you continue? Why would you want to continue? I can't count. And ever since I got involved with Genjo Osho, he's been robbing me of that motivation. It's the first time I went and practiced with him, he sort of commended me on my practice and the strength of my practice and the ability to keep going in spite of all of the obstacles. I don't know what to do with that. After a couple of years of practice, Genjo began talking about, and not only spoke about in very short order, followed through with acknowledging me as an Osho and teacher. This was the major instigator in the split between myself and Rinzai-ji, and the split between myself and Joshu Sasaki Roshi. It was like a big fuel tank. And so in just a little while, Genjo Osho said, "Oh yeah, we can definitely, I can see what you're doing there. I can see the quality of your practice, so we should definitely do this ceremony, and you should be acknowledged." And then just this past sesshin, in being invited to give a talk, the whole time sort of doing the form to get ready to give the talk and then sitting down to give the talk, so really just preoccupied with doing all of the ceremonial bits right, and just like my mind was I was literally going like, well, it will be good if all these people in Choboji can see me giving this talk, so that then I'll be real. To them I'll be real, because all of this is hearsay, and you can always be strung up by, and just really watching the craziness of my own history sort of manifest in complete contrast to the reality that was unfolding in front of me. So much so that by the time I sat down to give the talk, I was kind of exhausted and had no frigging clue what I was going to say, because never expected to survive to that moment in a lot of ways. So give the talk, and really not my best talk. Passable, maybe, whatever. And again, those sort of old energies flowing freely, expecting to be just chopped. I know it wasn't my strongest talk, and I know all the flaws and ugliness of it, and expecting to have it dragged out before everybody. And Genjo said, "Oh, it was a good talk." Again, robbing me of this thing to push against, this enemy to battle, this obstacle to press. And I just realized that in some ways the sensation is like, when I was working with the rock, I was like, oh, there's this Sisyphus is this guy who pushed this rock and up the hill, and every day it would roll back down again, and he would have to start the next day pushing it up the hill. And I felt like I've always been like Sisyphus, but all of a sudden now I feel like one day I just kept pushing the rock and pushing the rock and pushing the rock, and you can't see where you're going when you're pushing the rock because you're behind the rock. And so all of a sudden I sort of came over the top of a hill and sort of pushed the rock, and it sort of rolled down the other side, and I'm standing at the top of the hill. And that sounds like such a relief. It sounds like such a wonderful unburdening. But suddenly I'm left in this position of going, all I've done is push the rock. So when all you've done is push the rock, and the obstacles, the seeking for approval is gone, it's done, it's checked, it's crossed off the list. I've been affirmed, I've been put on a platform and given a new name, and given a certificate and swished over with a magic wand, and like you couldn't affirm me anymore. So I sit here like all of my dragons are slain. So what? So what next? And I realized that my own practice is really moving into a different phase. And my habits are always there. And this is why I continue to practice. The habits of looking for dragons to slay is still there all the time. Every time someone speaks to me, is there a dragon there? Oh, I'm looking for a fight, it's like. But it reminds me of the story of Musashi, Miyamoto Musashi, who this great samurai who eventually, no one could defeat him, so he just said, I'm going to go become a farmer. And that's kind of how I feel is that the external obstacles are fading. My whole life phase is fading. I think the energy and the fire of my younger days, maybe I'm just getting old. I don't know. I'm older. I don't want to do that anymore. And the focus towards my own family and my own community and my own zendo is increasing, developing and deepening. I want to plant crops, sow seeds and nurture the earth here in practice, and I want it to spread as much as it can. It's been so beneficial to me. But I often feel like I don't have the tools. It's like I'm trying to plow a row with a sword. So I'm doing my best. And the community has reached a kind of a very interesting balance point or tipping point or some kind of point. I don't know what my point is, but we've got Echo coming in who's helping me with administrative work. And I say that's ridiculous to say he's helping me with administrative work. It's like I'm giving him a list of things to do and he's doing the administrative work and I get to sort of prune. It's a wonderful opportunity. And we've got some senior members, Kosen and Seishin, coming back in, getting more involved with the community again after a period of integrating practice into life in a very deep way. There's an energy coming up, bubbling up for investigating who we are as a community, who we are as practitioners. And it's a bloody good thing, I think, that I have had some unabashed affirmation, because I think right now it would be very easy for me to feel displaced or unneeded. And sometimes I do. But it's a symptom of the maturity of the community. I'm seeing people come in and step in and take up and shoulder burdens and take on actual responsibility for the functioning and well-being of our community. And that's not been a common thing before. It's been an occasional thing with specific individuals, but I haven't ever seen it. And when I say I haven't ever seen it, I don't mean just here. I mean in general, in Zen centers. A whole community starting to sort of circle the wagons or step in together. And so I find myself really on unstable ground. Part of it has been sort of this experiment I've been doing for the past 6 months or so of trying to find balance in my life. did a course with Reverend Osho and Reverend Soshin on boundaries. And one of the things that it really emphasized was sort of finding a balance of self-care. Yeah, please make yourself comfortable. You don't need to stay still. And what I've discovered in the 6 months of seeking this self-care balance is I'm terrible at it. In fact, what I've realized is that I've intentionally throughout my life done everything that I could to not be balanced or sort of diverse or but instead to be unified and focused and committed and sort of all these great things that are the core values of Zenwest actually, but they don't work very well for me in division. What I've found is, so when I say, oh, okay, I'm going to have some balance and self-care and I'm going to do some things that I enjoy because, I don't have much of a life outside of Zenwest, so I'll get involved with a play and maybe I'll do some playing of Dungeons and Dragons and all this. And that'll be healthy. And maybe that was the case if I wasn't me. So what's happened is that the play is a musical, so it's something I've never done before. And there are rehearsals multiple days a week. And on top of the rehearsals, which is normal for plays, it's singing and music and, different lines. So I'm doing a bunch of hours of rehearsal on my own time so that I can even keep up with these people. And playing Dungeons and Dragons, what a great idea. Except that it started with a homeschool group. And then I thought, oh, geez, it'd be nice to have a game with adults. So then I started to get involved in organized play with adults, but it wasn't enough for me to just be a player. I needed to dungeon master. And then when there wasn't really it was really disorganized and uneven, and sometimes games, okay, well, I better organize that then. And then I better start contacting all the people who come to play so that I can really help develop the Dungeons and Dragons community. So I'm using all these tools. Suddenly I'm like coordinating. And that's taking a bunch of time as well. And so like last week I came back from session on Saturday. On Sunday we had the sit. I ran out of here and played Dungeons and Dragons 2 games, so from 1 to 10 o'clock p.m. And then the next morning I had the homeschool game and then a play rehearsal in the evening. So you see, I don't do this well. So what I'm realizing, and what's been wonderful about this whole process, is that all of these things are great and wonderful, but when I'm doing them, all I'm thinking about is what a distraction it is from Zen. I would rather be working on something to do with the Zen Center, as fun as it is. How divided and how bifurcated different activities make me in focusing on the development of this community and engaging in Zen practice with people. And then on top of that, we decided that it would be a good idea to run some programs in community centers. So I've been doing that as well during the week. The result is that I feel like I'm really super busy doing a whole bunch of stuff, and I haven't really seen much of the members or the students that I have. So I'm continuing to process all of this. But I'm a person of commitment as well. So I'm in this play. I hope you all come to see it. If you want to see me singing about Christmas is a rare... you won't see much of that, but But and dancing. You want to see me dance? I waltz, waltz and sing simultaneously. This is something worth paying for, I think. Anyways, I'm going to finish this play, and then I don't think I'm going to be involved in theater much after that. Because the one thing that's come clear for me is I'm hiding from the newest opponent, I guess, which is not a dragon or anything like that. It's just constancy. It's this. I'm really good with a sword, and I'm good at fighting obstacles. But like I said, I really am weak in the skills and the tools of nourishing, of fertilizing, of planting and watering and growing. And so I think that a more sustainable path for me and for our community is less war and more farming. So my point in talking about this with all of you is really just I want to express a very deep thanks for your support of my practice to this point for decades. I've been here for 20 years, and this community has supported my practice and bandaged my wounds and pushed me back in and all that. And I, along with the expression of gratitude, thank you, I want to make a request for ongoing support to help me transition to learning how to grow and learning how to nourish and learning how to be kind and gentle, nourishing and fertilizing, to transform and develop our community into something that is lush and green and vibrant and abundant. Thanks for listening to the Living Zen podcast. If you follow Living Zen through iTunes, I would very much appreciate it if you would take a moment to let me know what you think about it by rating or reviewing the podcast, so that new listeners can also hear what you have to say. Thank you for your time and for your support.